Duck Dynasty's Phil Robertson continuing to dominate the news. So, folks, if you're not a regular Duck Dynasty watcher, and I have to confess, I've never seen it, there is this guy who looks like someone from ZZ Top, shall we say. And he likes to spout off at the mouth all sorts of right-wing extremist, homophobic, bigoted remarks. And he's doing it because he believes in God, ostensibly. A lot of people are upset about this. A&E says they are essentially suspending him from the show. And now, predictably, all sorts of right-wingers, Sarah Palin, etc., are screaming and bemoaning and crying, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world, this is censorship. Isn't that the greatest evil ever? Look, this isn't censorship. Again, censorship is when the government tells someone you can't say something and we're now suppressing you or forbidding you from publishing or airing it. It is not censorship for a private sector media company to decide they don't want to be associated with someone because they think he's an idiot, because they think he's offensive, because they think he would drive away millions of viewers or sponsors. That's called making an editorial decision. And a lot of you conservatives who say, no, that's just not true, that is censorship, it's wrong. If Glenn Beck's website, The Blaze, or Tucker Carlson's website, The Daily Caller, says we want to hire a new columnist, and I submit a column, and my column is nothing but one sentence that says, anyone who's a conservative is an idiot, and I just say that sentence over and over again. Are they guilty of censorship for not hiring me? No, they're making an editorial decision that my particular content wouldn't really resonate with their readers or with their sponsors. And you know what? They would be absolutely right and within their rights to do that. That is not censorship. Now, the funny thing about this is the people who practically have blood dripping from their mouth, who are just so insistent that Martin Bashir be fired from MSNBC because he said something they didn't like, are the first ones to scream censorship when A&E doesn't want to be associated with this right-wing homophobic Neanderthal. Phil Robertson. You can't have it both ways. Now, the other thing I find wildly offensive is this idea is put out by the so-called centrist in the media that both sides are guilty. Well, both sides are not guilty. When I want a Phil Robertson canned, it's not because I endorse censorship. I'm not complaining that Martin Bashir or Bill Maher were fired because of censorship. When I complained that Martin Bashir was fired, it's because I fundamentally believe that what he said was true, correct, fair, and needed to be said. That's why I'm so upset that Martin Bashir was fired. But I'm not putting these phony arguments out there that this is somehow a travesty of his First Amendment rights or this is censorship, because that's complete baloney. And I'm sick and tired of these imbeciles creating false equality where none exists. Phil Robertson, he's still on too. It's not like they said we're going to take him out of the shows that have already shot. This controversy is not over, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, in the news, Bobby Jindal, the governor of Louisiana, is putting out the feelers that he's running for president. I think Bobby Jindal brings a lot to a presidential race. I think he has the intelligence, energy, drive, human back interest, or he'd be an excellent presidential candidate. Unfortunately for him, he has all the credentials it takes to be a good presidential candidate in the Democratic Party. Unfortunately for him, he's running as a Republican in the Republican Party, and I think he has absolutely no chance. Let's face it, if you're going to run for president and you've got brown skin, a funny name, by the way, his real name is like Puyash or something, it's not Bobby. If you're going to run for president and be known as kind of brainy, he's a Rhodes Scholar, so being a brainy intellectual, having a funny name, brown skin, there's a place for you to run for president where you can be successful. It's called the Democratic Party. I've seen no inclination whatsoever that the Republican Party has any interest whatsoever in nominating or even taking seriously someone who looks and sounds like a Bobby Jindal. Folks, this is a minor news matter. I don't know if anyone outside of New York City is going to really pay attention, but huge front page headline in the New York Post, Rupert Murdoch's house organ. And it's all about how the press secretary for the mayor-elect, a liberal Democrat, Bill de Blasio, is now the girlfriend of the still married former Governor Eliot Spitzer. And yes, folks, this is an interesting thing to sort of chortle over if you live in New York City. But I do think that's a bit of a stretch for a major news story, considering this poor woman is not in the news. She's not even officially a member of the de Blasio administration. Spitzer has not only been run out of office, he lost his most recent bid earlier last year for elective office. Earlier this year, went nowhere. It kind of seems like gratuitous piling on, and it's frankly one reason why so many people hate the news media. Not just liberals hating the New York Post, but in general why so many people hate the news media. At this point, it seems like a violation of privacy. Yeah, I know Spitzer asked for it, but this poor woman, just because she's worked in political campaigns, needs to have her life humiliated. It seems a bit of a stretch. In case you haven't followed it, this is on the one hand, a funny story, an interesting story, a sign of our time story, but the case of this woman, a PR representative, Justine Sacco. She was head of global public relations for Barry Diller's IAC. They own Match.com, all sorts of other companies. She sent a tweet, "Going to Africa. Hope I don't get AIDS. Just kidding. I'm white." That was her tweet. And I guess trying to be funny, cute, she then promptly boarded a plane and was on the plane for 12 hours, and all hell broke loose on Twitter. It was the biggest story of Twitter. People hacking into her accounts. Supposedly she's receiving death threats. Her company had to fire her. I mean, talk about the pitchforks coming out. Now, it's hard to feel sorry for someone who'd say something so insensitive and frankly stupid and just obnoxious. But her career is ruined. I frankly don't know how you come back as a PR person after doing something like this. Folks need to realize this idea of just posting something that might be funny if you're talking to one best friend over a phone call, but that you could post it to the whole world and be a PR person and get away with it. It's just not going to work, folks. And people don't seem to be learning. The time to be snarky, sarcastic, vicious, and mean-spirited. Well, maybe there's never a time for that. But if you're going to do it, don't do it in social media or traditional media. Do it with your friends and family behind closed doors, if you must do such things. Now, some have been troubled by the sort of lynch mob mentality that went after her. I tend to think that people like Bill Kristol, prominent conservatives who've been complaining about this, I think their bigger issue is that somebody had their career destroyed for saying conservative things. I mean, these are the things she's saying are the things that conservatives like to say jokingly behind people's back. Now, I have no idea if this woman is a Republican or thinks of herself as a conservative, but this is a win for liberals, folks. Here's someone saying obnoxious, wildly offensive things from the conservative spectrum, offensive to liberals, and we got her scalp. I don't know if I'm ready for every single political battle to be decided by Twitter lynch mob, but I'm not going to shed many tears for this woman.